In the following episode of Urban Legends, we've changed some names to protect the identity of those involved. The world is full of urban legends, remarkable stories that spread like viruses around the planet, mutating and evolving, until no one can remember which are true and which are urban legends. In this episode called Love Hurts, you'll see 3 stories where Cupid's arrow becomes a weapon of mass destruction. First up, Gavin Dumpries finally meets his online sweetheart, who turns out to be full of surprises. Then Pew Yin Lee tries to escape an arranged marriage, but ends up with a very strange wife. And finally, Pierro loses his fiancée to a 5-star chef, but is served as revenge in a very unexpected manner. Watch all 3 stories and decide which ones are true and which ones are false. Find out if you guessed right at the end of the show. First, it's a story we like to call long-distance love. The path of true love never does run smooth, and it's no different in Charleston, South Carolina. It was here that a young man called Gavin saw his dream date turn into a nightmare. Meet Sergeant Harold Phillips.
I honestly, after several years in law enforcement, have never heard of or seen something like this.
And meet Mark Nickel, the first journalist to speak to Gavin after his experience.
When I went to interview him, the story had only broken American media maybe a week before.
In March 2000, young Brit Gavin Dumpries is messaging Winea Schumate, an American woman he met in an internet chat room.
The process of getting to know her offered an escape, an adventure, a different lifestyle. At the time, the internet was this barely understood phenomenon, was opening up a world which he could not even have imagined. It was a transporter from his tiny world to what seems like the brave new world of South Carolina.
They talk online for 2 weeks. Then Winea sends him a photo. Gavin is in love.
There was a genuine connection between these 2 people. He has filled a hole in her life, and she has filled a hole in his. He's talking to the woman he thinks is the woman of his dreams.
After 4 months of excited emails, Gavin saves enough cash for a ticket to visit Winea in South Carolina. He plans to stay a while, so he quits his dead-end job and heads to the airport.
Suddenly, it was a big step and a long way to go. His expectations were higher than they've ever been in his life. There was going to be a new adventure with a new woman. It was a big thing for him. It was a life-making or breaking decision.
Finally, it's time for Gavin to meet the girl of his dreams.
And it's a big shock. Having spent months dreaming of this attractive blonde, to be confronted by the woman who is twice the weight, twice the age, not the 30-something beauty he's got to know online.
You look just like I pictured you.
At first, Gavin is angry and confused.
Winea manages to persuade him. We have got close. I couldn't send you a picture of how I look now because I knew you wouldn't come, but I felt a certain way about you. Look, nothing's lost. You've paid for your ticket. You can reside at mine until you choose to return. It would be like a regular holiday, and at the end, he'd go back.
Winea may not be the hottie Gavin pictured, but the connection he felt in their nightly emails persuades him to stay.
He's not having the time of his life because his expectations were so high.
But things are about to get even worse. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door.
And our man, Gavin, is in for the shock of a lifetime.
It's the police.
Can I help you?
They want to speak to Winea about her former lover, James O'Neill, who's been missing for months. As the police search the house, Winea unwisely enlists Gavin's help in avoiding the cops.
She told Gavin she knew exactly where Mr. O'Neill was at, that he wasn't missing.
And then she begins to reveal the remarkable story of the gentleman she shared the property with. Gavin at first thought it was a complete joke. I mean, how could it possibly be true? But she was insistent. He wants to see it for himself.
Gavin, who I'm sure had a lot on his mind at that point, told the detective that he knew where Mr. O'Neill was at.
Gavin shows the cops what Winea had shown him.
Something I never thought in a million years that I'd see, but I most certainly did.
James O'Neill is lying dead in Winea's deep freeze.
You just don't think you're gonna walk in somebody's house and find a person in their freezer. Without Gavin, we probably still would not know the whereabouts of Mr. O'Neill.
Winea is arrested, leaving Gavin heartbroken, alone and 4,000 miles from home.
So it really was the adventure of a lifetime.
So is Winea's attempt to keep love fresh the stone-cold truth, or just a frozen fraud? Find out at the end of the show. But first, check out this mini-myth. Mini-myth number 91. Burning love. Hannes Pisek of Austria has the fire of passion burning inside him, so he decides to make a grand gesture of love for his girlfriend. He lights 220 candles and arranges them on the floor of his apartment in the shape of a heart. Then he sets off to bring his sweetheart back to his romantic surprise. When they return, firefighters are valiantly trying to salvage what is left of Hannes's home. Left unattended, the candles had set fire to his apartment. So, did this Pi Romeo really torch his own pad, or are we just blowing smoke? It's true. And in 2006, Hannes had more bad luck. His girlfriend dumped him and moved back in with her parents. On Urban Legends, we show you 3 incredible stories. You must decide which ones are infallible facts and which ones are unfeasible fakes. So far, you've seen the tale of online Romeo Gavin Dumpries, whose transatlantic dream date turned into a nightmare when he found her ex in the deep freeze. But is it fact or fantasy? Find out at the end of the show. Now it's time for our next story. It's called Happily Never After. The summer of love still lives on in liberal San Francisco, the perfect place to hide from the strict traditions of your homeland, or so one young immigrant thought. Meet Pew Yin Lee.
I wanted to travel. I wanted to learn more. I wanted a new life, so I left mainland China. I decided to move to San Francisco.
But escaping his old life in China would prove harder than Pew could ever have imagined. May 1999, Pew and his girlfriend Lee seem like most teenage sweethearts.
Lee and I met in high school, back in China, and dated for about 3 years.
These young lovers shouldn't have a care in the world, but the relationship is far from rosy.
She seemed to like me more than I liked her. There were no fireworks, there were no sparks. We were more like brothers and sisters. She wasn't the one for me.
Unfortunately, he was the one for Lee's old-fashioned father, who has arranged for Pew to make an honest woman of his daughter.
Her father wanted me to marry her. I wasn't up for it. I was young. I was too young.
Breaking tradition, hothead Pew decides to escape Lee, her parents, and his arranged marriage.
Mary, I'm not. No.
He leaves China and goes to work for his uncle in San Francisco.
I wasn't worrying about Lee anymore. I had a lot of things to do. I had my new life, and I wanted to get going. My uncle Max had a candy store. He offered me a job there. I was working, making money. I had my own life. I loved it there.
It seems like Pew is living the American dream. But it would soon become a nightmare.
One day, my uncle told me he had important news. I knew it was about Lee. He brought me down to the storeroom.
Sit down, sit down. Let me tell you something.
He told me Lee was pregnant,
Pregnant?
and she told her parents that it was my child.
And you are the father of the baby.
That wasn't true. We didn't have relations in that way. So I told my parents my story.
Mom! No, listen to
My parents confronted Lee and insisted that she lied to her parents about it.
With her lies exposed, Pew decides to sever all ties with Lee once and for all.
No, there's no way.
I knew I didn't want to date Lee again. How can you date a girl that is gonna lie? I told her she could find another new guy.
A weight lifted from his shoulders, Pew continues with his new life. But Lee cannot move on. A week later, Pew's parents call. They tell him that something's happened. The arranged marriage must go ahead immediately.
I had to go back to mainland China.
Pew arrives back in Shanghai, where the families have hastily prepared a wedding, except his bride is not the one in the dress. She's the one in the urn. Unable to live with the shame of being caught in a lie and then ditched by her boyfriend, Lee took her own life.
She had committed suicide.
Lee's father was distraught. The suicide has humiliated his family.
There was a lot of pressure. My parents gave me a lot of pressure. Lee's parents gave me a lot of pressure.
He tells Pew that he must right the wrong.
It was my responsibility and my duty to honor them and to give her respect the way she died.
Pew takes Lee's ashes to be his lawful wedded wife.
And I finally married her.
With honor restored, Pew returns to the U.S. for not your average honeymoon.
I brought the urn back to San Francisco with me. We were to live together forever, and that is what she wanted.
So is this story true, or is it just dust in the wind? Find out at the end of the show. Before that, check out this mini-myth. Mini-myth number 2369, Heartbreakers. 20-year-old Sashi and Tomio Hidaka were married in 1978 in Chiba, Japan. An extremely shy couple, they barely made eye contact with each other, though they were very much in love. Theirs was a pure union. They never once consummated it. But in 1992, Sashi wrote in her diary that they decided it was now or never. The excitement of the event overwhelmed them, and though neither of them had a history of heart trouble, they both died of cardiac arrests. So is this a tale of false fatality, or is it a tragic truth? Is the story true or false? It's true. Both died of heart failure from the sheer excitement of it all. Police found their bodies slumped together after their deadly embrace. On Urban Legends, we show you 3 sensational stories. Your job is to separate the terrific truths from the horrible hoaxes. So far, you've seen the tale of Gavin Dumpries, the online Romeo who discovered that his dream date didn't look like her picture, was only single because she kept her ex-boyfriend in a deep freeze. And the story of Pew Yin Lee, the guy who moved to California to escape an arranged marriage, only to be honor-bound to wed her ashes after she'd committed suicide. Do either of these stories strike you as true? We'll let you know at the end of the show. Now it's time for a final story, This one's called Arrivederci, Cruel World. For centuries, Milan, Italy has been a world center of creativity. Today, it's a place where people conjure up the latest trends in high fashion and design. Meet Pierro Lucetti.
I work for a graphic design firm in Italy.
And his ex-girlfriend, Lucia Anginato.
We met in the university and fell in love. We were going to marry. That was the plan.
But Pierro's designs on marriage were thwarted when she met another creative man. In May 2008, Lucia is throwing a dinner party to celebrate Pierro's birthday.
Lucia wanted to surprise me, so she called a chef, the best, in Milan. So he come. If I know it then, what I know now, that the chef never walk into my home.
Lucia goes to answer the door. And the chef makes an instant impression. It is love at first sight. Sensing something's going on, Pierro tries to warn the chef off.
Pierro.
Massimo, I'm the chef.
I'm Lucia's husband.
Oh, very nice.
I'll show you to the kitchen.
You lead the way.
That was it. As soon as she went to the door, everybody's life changed.
Things are starting to get hot and steamy in the kitchen.
We had dinner guests, but I no see Massimo and I no see Lucia for a little while. But I cleared the plates from the table to help. Some funny stuff was not so funny going on there. I could not believe this. Of course, I got upset. But we still had guests.
Pierro doesn't get the chance to confront Lucia.
I left the kitchen, I could not believe it. Something happened. Without a doubt, this I know.
As the party draws to a close, Lucia has some bad news for Pierro.
Lucia, what is going on?
I'm leaving.
You leaving? With Massimo?
Yes.
I never see this happen in a million years with Lucia. We were always happy. And I asked her why. She said to me that she loves me, but she cannot explain it. She has to go with Massimo.
Sorry.
No, stay, please.
And they left. He stole my Lucia. He ruined my life.
Lucia!
It was my birthday. A nice present.
The next day, Lucia returns to the apartment to collect a few belongings.
You stupid man.
Distraught and alone, Pierro has taken an overdose.
I felt like I wanted to die, but I didn't really want to die. I just wanted to be with Lucia.
He's bleeding.
Lucia calls an ambulance, but Pierro's cry for help backfires.
It didn't change anything. She still left with him again.
First, the paramedics stabilize Pierro's vital signs, and then they drive him to the hospital.
The ambulance was racing through the city, you know, to get me to the hospital. And then, I don't know, suddenly, boom, we hear something. I say, what's going on? What's going on? They jump out. They hit somebody. Somebody came out into traffic in front of the ambulance. The ambulance hit them and killed him instantly. They couldn't save him. And I look. I could not believe what I saw. I never believed this in a million years if it did not happen to me, huh? Massimo, that stole my fiancé. He's dead. After that, I started feeling a little better.
After leaving Pierro with the paramedics, Massimo and Lucia parted ways.
Look out!
But Chef Massimo is struck by the grille of Pierro's speeding ambulance.
After all of this experience, I believe karma. But I still don't get her back. La Lucia.
Is this tale the truth, or is it just a sick story? You don't have to wait much longer to find out. All will be revealed after this final mini-myth. Mini-myth number 298. Weathering the storm. Roger and Michelle were lovers, but they were always fighting. They argued about everything, from choosing a restaurant to changing the cat litter. Finally, Roger breaks up with Michelle and tells her to move out. Then Roger has to take a business trip to Australia and hopes Michelle will be gone when he returns. When he gets home, Michelle is gone, but Roger finds a $3,000 phone bill. The telephone company tells him that someone made a call to a 24-hour weather line in Australia that lasted for a week. So is Roger really left on the hook for $3,000? Is it true or false? It's false. This tale of lovers' revenge has been around since the 1980s and appeared in the British comedy Only Fools and Horses in 1981. Now it's time to reveal the truth about our three stories. First up, it's the tale of Gavin Dumpries. The guy who found his internet girlfriend was a lot less appealing in the flesh, especially when he saw her ex-boyfriend in a deep freeze. But is it true or false?
My name is Sergeant Harold Phillips, and this is a true story.
Winea's ex died of natural causes, but she hid him in a deep freeze so she could keep living in his house and using his bank account. She was arrested and charged with fraud and desecration of a corpse. So what about the story of Pew Yin Lee? He moved to the US so he wouldn't have to marry his long-term girlfriend. But when his heartbroken ex committed suicide, family honor forced him to marry her ashes. But was this tale just a smokescreen?
This is not a true story. Who's crazy enough to marry a dead chick?
This particular tale is an urban legend, but newspapers regularly carry unconfirmed reports of so-called ghost weddings in China, Africa, and India. Which leaves the story of Pierro Lucetti. When Pierro's fiancée left him for Chef Massimo, he tried to kill himself, but the ambulance taking Pierro to hospital hit and killed Massimo, begging the question, is revenge a dish best served cold or hot off the grill?
This story didn't really happen.
Although revenge is a wildly popular urban legend theme, this tale is unusual because the retribution is unintentional. A variation of this story appears in the Holly Hunter movie, Living Out Loud. That's the end of our episode called Love Hurts. Were you seduced by the tantalizing truth, or did you fall for the luscious lies? Don't worry if you got it wrong. You'll get another chance to separate fact from fiction in the next installment of Urban Legends.